Welcome back to another edition of Cajun Classic Cars TV. We're in Arnaudville, Louisiana, and we're going to talk about Russell's great vehicle here and tell us what it's going to be.
It's a 1950 Ford Delette, which is a amalgamation of a 1950 Ford truck body, chopped down 5.5 inches, Dodge 331 Hemi motor with a 2-speed power flight transmission, and also GM full float 14-bolt rear end with air locker differential in it.
So we're going to talk about all the components of this, and I'm very happy to be here with Russell because this is the first ever Rat Rod on Cajun Classic Cars TV. This episode, as always, is brought to you in part by Vicari Auction. Check out their website, vicariauction.com. And our good folks in Baton Rouge at Goodwood Hardware and Outdoors at goodwoodhardware.com.
Your cars are the stars. Cajun Classic Cars TV.
We're in Arnaudville, Louisiana, to talk with Russell about his awesome Ford Delay. Now, Arnaudville is a town in St. Landry and St. Martin parishes. The St. Martin Parish portion of Arnaudville is part of the Lafayette area, and the St. Landry Parish is part of the Opelousas area. Arnaudville is on the original side of an Attakapas Indian village and is one of the oldest remaining towns in St. Landry Parish. It's been called the Junction by some, a tribute to the fact that the town is centered by the intersection of Bayou Teche and Bayou Fusilier. By the 19th century, the town was renamed once again, this time after the Arnaud family, which had donated a large amount of land to the town to establish a church for all, which still exists today. Now, this is our first official Rat Rod on the series here at Cajun Classic Cars TV. You know, what's a Rat Rod? Well, it's a custom car with a deliberately worn down, unfinished appearance, sometimes lacking paint, showing rust, and made from cheap or cast off parts. It's usually a very personalized car to the owner. Originally, they were a counter reaction to the high price customs and typical hot rods, many of which were seldom driven and served only a decorative purpose. Hot rodder and freelance journalist Brad Ocock said once of the Rat Rod trend, there's a huge difference between Rat Rod and beater. A beater has potential. A Rat Rod is something someone threw together to make a statement. So let's talk to Russell about his cool Ford Delay Rat Rod and what influenced him to get into this project. So, Russell, before we get to talking about your rod, man, tell me what kind of got you going, got your juices going on of old cars.
So, you know, through life, I've come up from many years back. I won't say how many years, but you guess. And some of my family's been ex-drag racers. Some of my family's still doing custom work from their home facilities. I've built things in the past here and there, nothing to the nature and to the extreme of what this is. And so I found myself at a point in life where after a few cancer battles and the repercussions of that and then the threat of a third, I said, you know, bucket list time. And this is what you're looking at is my bucket list. Even though I'm clear now, so the credit to that was I ended up with a Rat Rod after.
Well, congrats for fighting it. My dad has battled the C word for about, 3 times. And so it's always great to see a survivor, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks. And I wish your dad well.
Thank you so much. So, Russell, this Rat Rod here, it's kind of your first foray into just what you would call a classic ride, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So what made you decide on the whole Rat Rod thing? Did you see it somewhere and you said, I want to do that, or you read something about what was the deal?
So, you know, I know about the rat finks and the whole culture. What attracted me to this is I have years of painting experience, welding, fabrication, carpentry, done a little bit of leather work on a craft level. And I said, you know, I want something that I can either fix correctly or duct tape and get it home and then fix it. And so all of that brought me to where I am now with this, which I did acquire as a project car, although I did not suspect how much of a project car it was until I got it. And let me tell you, it was a project car. And so now this is the finished product from that.
Where's the kitchen sink? Because this thing seems to have everything but the kitchen sink.
It's under the bed. I can open the bed to show you.
Oh, Lord. I can't wait for that segment.
So this motor, I had to do a lot of research to get down to what the motor was, where it came from. Turns out it's a 1954, probably out of a DeSoto. From all appearances, and when I cleaned up in the valve covers, I got head numbers. Same thing, it revealed that. It looks like this motor is original to itself. It hasn't been broke down, hasn't been messed with. Talking about a 1954 motor that purrs at 60 miles an hour and just wants to keep on going. It's mated. These motors, the block has a cast iron mount that's built onto the block for the two-speed power flight. This was one of the first years of the two-speed power flight, which came out to compete with the Power Glide, which most people will be aware of what a Power Glide is. So that's the motor's history. I do hope in the future to maybe accidentally spend a couple of tens of thousands and go ahead and get it built and put a blow on it just to scare people a little bit more.
Okay, so tell me exactly what you called it at the beginning of the show.
So it's a fleur-de-lis. Around here in southern Louisiana, a fleur-de-lis, everybody knows what that is. Well, I said, okay, it's southern, I'm born and raised out of New Orleans area, so this is my fleur-de-lis. Ford, being it's a Ford truck body. D-O, Dodge motor and transmission, and the Lee, L-E-T, maybe a little apostrophe on there, is my drivetrain at the rear. And so that's what we came up with. Well, I did anyway. My wife just shakes her head.
But you're gonna have to somehow fit DeSoto in there because of the motor, though.
Well, now you're gonna mess my word up.
So. I ruined it.
Well, that's where the Ford, then D-O, Do, and Lay. Ford-de-Lay. That's all I could get for the Dodge was the deal. I never really was a Dodge guy, but this 331 Hemi has me sold on Hemis. It really, for the size it is, it's only about a 180 horsepower, which is really a small motor. It really pushes this thing in purrs, so I'm sold on it.
Well, you know what though, I can make amends for messing up your word because technically you could say a DeSoto was a Dodge. Correct. Because there was that connection way back when. So we can maybe I've redeemed myself a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that.
So Russell, tell us about some of the things we're looking at here on the open engine here and the grill and everything.
Sure. So there was a smaller version of a front crash radiator grill. I beefed it up a little because of the fact that I wanted to put more of what I was about and felt like I wanted in it. Around the Deep South, anybody that sees these will know that they come from the tops of ornamental iron fences and all of the southern cultures, so I wanted a piece of that. Snapping turtle, need to say no more. It's a snapping turtle. Unless you eat them, you stay away from them. So the roses, the spent ordnances represent, really this whole piece represents that it's somewhat of a tombstone abstract of what I thought I was headed to. Due to the cancer, and instead now I'm driving it around with new shock systems on the front, so now I've got shocks on top of it. Can't ask for better. The car came with headers that dumped out right by the door, and when you would run it, there's a lot of exhaust smell coming into the car. Some people like that and their brains work better with that, but mine doesn't. So I said, no, it got to be a better way. Being that it'll slam to the ground, no room to run pipes underneath. So I had to think about it for a few days. I said, you know what? Exhaust needs to go up. That's what we're gonna do. So I went online, searched around, found some companies that offer mandrel bent pipes, figured out what I needed, how I needed, got a big old box of pipes in, mocked up the Cherry Bomb type exhaust to see about where I wanted them, and started cutting and fabbing and welding together headers. After that, I went, well, that's a lot of heat now right in the front that's going to be pouring into my cab. What do I do now? So I said, okay, we're going to wrap them. So that's what I did, wrapped everything, and surprisingly seemed to be really sturdy. Everything's been operating great on that end, and I'm happy with the extent of that. And it's kind of like an eye catcher too now. You don't see something with exhaust coming up in the front of the vehicle.
So Russell, were these airbags from a vehicle, or did you repurpose them from something else?
So they came on this vehicle. When I got it as a severe project, it already had the frame set up with air suspension and the body was chopped. But that was it. Since then, I've had to retube, change all the fittings. Everything was leaking air severely. but the bags themselves are still original to this build as I got it.
Are they from a vehicle, or were they repurposed from something else? Do you know?
There's just systems out there that people utilize for these kinds of applications. It's low cost all in all, other than obviously you have to have the clearance and ability and knowledge to utilize them.
I like the spikes on the fenders.
Yeah.
Looks like it makes you look a little bit more badass.
Yeah, so these are supposed to be for dog collars, but the guy that was selling them online said, "Who in their right mind would buy these and put them on a dog collar?" I said, "Me," but they're not on my dog's collar, they're on my car instead. I figured I didn't want something too big, but wanted something just to express a little something on the fenders, because fenders aren't supposed to be on a rat rod, so they should have a little latitude now that they are.
I like the visor. Now, was this originally kind of a visor thing, or did you remanufacture something?
The visor came with it, but I had to do some tweaking and some bending and get it to kind of flow with the car a little more. And then also, there was no windshield wiper, and for state law for me to get inspected and be legal, as this is a street legal car, I had to put a windshield wiper. So I did get caught in the rain a week or two back, and the windshield wiper actually worked. I had to look in one little spot like this, but I was able to make it. And then my air conditioning, let me point out my air conditioning. No air conditioning, air conditioning. Works great. It's only one temperature, whatever's outside, so you drive fast, it's gonna get a little better.
All right, hand grenades, your idea or the previous owner you mentioned?
So the hand grenades on the front tires, my grandsons noticed that there were valve stem hand grenade caps, and he went, "Wow, hand grenades, that's so cool." I said, okay, I'm gonna take that one step further, because I don't want to be outdone by valve caps. So I went ahead and purchased some dummy grenades, drilled them, mounted them on that, and they got a kick out of it. One of my grandsons, he wanted it. He said, "No, you don't need to put that on. Let me take it home with me instead." And no, it's going on there. And that was some of the last little decorations, other than the spikes, once I completed the paint job on it, which was a daunting task because I don't have a garage. I have a shed with an awning out front. So all of this work was done outside under South Louisiana conditions, rain or shine, including the patina paint job. Sure. So the rear end, when I got the truck, finally got it running, operating, pulled it out the driveway, it sounded horrible. You could tell that there was problems throughout the rear, which I found out there was. So what I ended up doing was buying completely new gears and a differential, because right now it's a slip differential, but with the air locker, which is air powered, when you flip a switch, it becomes a positive traction rear end, and you can feel it when it starts pulling positive traction with this little vehicle. It'll shoot you in a straight line, and it is great. If I ever wanted to go run it or bring it to a drag strip just to check time, it would help to keep me straight on the road. So I rebuilt all of that. I'm waiting on axles right now because they were kind of harder to find, but they're suitable for running right now. I'm not doing any burnouts or running at a track.
Little fuel cell there.
Fuel cell. I had a small one, only 7 gallon, which doesn't go far in Louisiana these days if you get out cruising, so I had to get rid of it and put a 19 gallon, which is way better.
Yeah, because you're probably at least getting 3 miles a gallon, right?
Yeah, I think maybe like 2.95. So, and that's just putting along at 45 to 60. So I don't really drive it too much. With the potholes around here, it would lose your teeth trying to. Let's take a look inside.
All right. So your humble host here, putting his fat rear end in the inside the rat rod here. Here we go. I like the suicide doors, man.
Especially if you have to get out quick to go get a beer or something.
Just don't open while you're going 65. You end up with wings.
Yeah, and it's not traditional. It came with the car already done. Obviously, a tool handle slide bolt. I got an inspection sticker, so that's all I'm worried about.
Auto Accident Help Desk.
Welcome to Auto Accident Help Desk. We're a free service and we're open 24/7. If you or someone you know has been injured in a motor vehicle accident and do not have an attorney, call Auto Accident Help Desk right now for a free consultation. At the help desk is my colleague, Justin. Tell us more about the callers.
Leah, thanks for having me. We're getting calls for truck, motorcycle, and most of all, car accidents. If you or someone you know was injured in an accident and were not at fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live professional who will answer your questions and explain how much your case may be worth.
Folks, don't worry about your medical bills, lost wages, and pain. Call Auto Accident Help Desk right now.
Call 800-807-0744. 800-807-0744. 800-807-0744.
Auto Accident Help Desk.
All right, any idea where these controls are from?
So this, my wife accidentally at first thought, oh wow, we really do have air conditioning, until I said, well no, look closer, it's upside down. It's just a joke, because I've already shown the air conditioning. So not sure where it itself came from, but I thought it was so clever and funny that I left it in here, so people, if they notice, would go, wait a minute, the words are upside down, because it's no air conditioning.
All right, so tell me the buttons.
The buttons is FU. Everybody knows what that is. That's front up. FD, front down, rear up, rear down for my air suspension system. Any gauge, the gauge cluster doesn't work, unfortunately, so I have a digital Google operated GPS speedometer, fuel gauge, and a digital sensor that shows me the pressure in the front and the rear independently of each other, so I can tell how much air is in those systems. I do have a USB charging station though.
Fancy.
So that's probably the highest tech in this vehicle.
This shifter reminds me of a story my dad had in a 50s, might have been a Cadillac, and he talked about that the shifter almost went up to the roof of the vehicle.
So I didn't change that. I left this all true to form, and I had to take what was interior metal. All of that was trashed out. I had to come in and put new. It didn't have the neutral safety switch hooked up initially, and let me tell you, that's an interesting experience. If you start it up and it's not in neutral, figure it out. It's going. So I did go ahead, it had the switch itself. So well, what's the odds? Put my meter on it, switch still worked. Wired it into the ignition, voila. This is pretty interesting because this is the parking brake. Before they had park on your vehicle, this is what they came up with, was an external brake. On the rear of this 2-speed Power Flight is a little drum, just like a drum brake, that's what it is. And when you set this is your parking brake. So back when, between the transition of having a true park within your transmission, this is what they came up with. And it does work, so it works fine.
And you got to look a little real bad here with your real rough and tough with your barbed wire there.
Yeah, it is leather barbed wire, so I don't think it'll do any actual damage. It did damage my pocketbook a little bit, but I purchased all of this is genuine leather except for the roof is a vinyl, and it came as a remnant scrap bin, and then I got in here and pieced it together like a Frankenstein project, which is what this truck turned out to be. Overall, I'm happy with it. In the mornings, it smells like you're getting into a high-end vehicle with the smell of leather, and then you start it up and it's exhaust. Let's hear it run. Purrs. 1954, what is that, 75 years? Wow.
You know what, though? Surprisingly, it's not as loud as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, at first with the open headers before I put the exhaust on, it was stupid loud. Everybody was like, oh my God, that's so loud. I said, you know, I don't want to aggravate everybody, but I want to hear the motor, and it just purrs with the exhaust I got on it, so I figured I'd leave it. Although if I want to get crazy, 3 small bolts and I can open them up and we can be as loud as we want to be.
Hey everybody, it's Flying Brian. We'll get back to the episode here in just a little bit, but I wanted to break in to find out if you're enjoying this content. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it going. There's a lot of travels we have to do around the state to interview folks, to go to car shows, to spread the word, and we can use your help to defray some of the costs. There are a couple of ways you can help. If you own a business, get in touch with me. Brian at CajunClassicCarsTV.com. That's Brian at Cajun Classic Cars TV. We've got a couple of great sponsors, Vicari Auction and Goodwood Hardware. Other folks are ready to sign on. We've got a price plan that works for your business. I promise you. We'll spread the word amongst our tens of thousands, nearly 100,000 people that like and share our content each month. And secondarily, you can also donate. And there's a couple of links at our website, which is CajunClassicCarsTV.com. Again, that's CajunClassicCarsTV.com. Now back to the show.
You know, it really does run pretty smooth for its age and the fact that it's kind of a lot of things cobbled together.
Are we talking about me or the car?
Well, a little bit of both.
It does, actually. Before I put the front shocks on, it was really rough, and this road right here is horrible. But all in all, I'm happy with the project. The biggest problem with living in rural areas and a low vehicle, the other day there was some roadkill, and I was nervous if I was going to make it over it without having to jack up the suspension. Luckily, I didn't drag anything home, so it was all good.
Well, like they said of the Beverly Hillbillies, you'd have had some vittles.
I gotcha, you big overgrown rascal. Now you're coming into the house to tell me you're to Jim. And then you're going into the stew.
Yeah, my wife would not be happy about that, but I agree. No power steering neither.
Unless you're counting your muscles.
That's it. My wife says, you make it so effortlessly done.
Russell, thanks so much for your hospitality. You're letting my wife stay inside in the cool with your wife, away from the mosquitoes, and we appreciate that. Let me take a look at this rat rod and this kind of labor of love you got here in Arnaudville and St. Martin Parish, my friend.
I appreciate you coming out, and I hope you're the best with this project you got going on.
Thanks for watching Cajun Classic Cars TV. All of our content is on Facebook, TikTok, it's on Instagram, it's on YouTube, it's Carrier Pigeon. Plus, check out our radio station, Cruisin' Radio. You can just go to our website, CajunClassicCarsTV.com, to find out more about that. Thanks for watching.